Hello guys. Tonight, I'd like to invite you on a journey far back in time, to the sands and soft winds of ancient Egypt, where the mighty pyramids rose from the desert like stone mountains reaching for the sun. Before we drift off together, I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight, and what time is it there? Leave me a comment when you can. I truly enjoy imagining how far and wide this little corner of history travels while we rest. Now, take a slow, steady breath. Let your shoulders soften. Curl up somewhere warm, pull your blanket a bit closer, and make sure you're completely comfortable. All you need to do now is listen. You wake just before dawn, as the desert is still holding on to the last threads of night's chill. You are one of thousands who live at the edge of the sprawling construction site, the royal necropolis where Pharaoh Khufu's pyramid is slowly claiming the sky. You are not a slave, though sometimes it feels close to it, but a labourer, a farmer turned builder, conscripted for a few months at a time when the Nile's waters have covered your fields and there is no farming to be done. The faint hush of wind moves through the small village of mud brick houses that have sprung up near the limestone quarries and the half-built pyramid. The workers' town is simple but bustling, narrow lanes winding between huts, storage sheds, bakeries and stone workshops. Some of your fellow workers are still sleeping on reed mats. Others, like you, have woken early, stretching sore muscles before the overseer's horns call you all to gather. You step outside into the cold air. The horizon is painted in faint pink and dusty gold. Already you can smell the fire pits from the communal bakery, flat loaves of barley bread baking, thick porridge bubbling in large clay pots. Nearby the smell of beer, a sour earthy scent, drifts from where it's brewed in great jars. You and your workmates are fed well enough, for the Pharaoh knows a hungry workforce is a weak one. Your daily ration includes bread, beer, onions, sometimes dried fish, sometimes dates. It's not luxurious, but it fills your belly and gives you strength to haul stones weighing more than 100 men. You think about your wife, your small children back in your village along the Nile. You hope the barley harvest will be good this year when you return with your share of wages, bread, linen, maybe even a bit of copper if you're lucky. As the sun lifts higher, you tie a linen cloth around your head to keep the sun from your eyes. A foreman walks down the lane, tapping a staff against the doorways, shouting softly in the ancient Egyptian tongue. It's time! The day's work begins with a long march up to the quarries, or the pyramid's base, up ramps built of mud brick and rubble, slick with sand and sweat. You can hear the soft chant of prayers offered to the gods, to Ptah, to Thoth, to Horus and Isis. May they protect your back, your bones, your heart. For the work is dangerous, and not all who walk up these ramps in the morning walk back down at dusk. Yet there is pride too deep inside you, though you seldom speak it aloud. For generations to come, when your own bones are dust, the stone you helped lift will stand beneath the sun. A king's tomb, a stairway to eternity. You take another breath. The desert's morning air is still soft, cool, and carrying the scent of stone dust. You feel the sand beneath your feet, rough and familiar. Ahead, the pyramid rises, still far from finished but already immense, its pale limestone sides catching the first rays of Ra's blessing light. Tonight, we will walk together into the daily life behind those stones, into the campfires, the bruised hands, the hidden dangers, the feasts, the rumours, and yes, the mysteries that linger even now, thousands of years later, beneath the stones you lift today. The sun has risen fully now, washing the Giza plateau in a white glare that will soon press down on your shoulders like a hot hand. You and your crew move in a line, bare feet kicking up clouds of pale sand and powdered limestone. The path from the workers' village to the quarry is well trodden, packed hard by thousands of feet over the seasons. You pass other teams already at work, rows of men with chisels and copper saws, their tools ringing against stone with a sound that's as steady and rhythmic as a heartbeat. It is a harsh, metallic music, echoing off the quarry walls. You join in, settling into your place along the ramp where massive limestone blocks are being pried loose, shaped, and dragged toward the pyramid's base. You run your hands along the rough surface of the stone you'll help haul today. It is warm from the sun already, dry and chalky. You think of the men who first cut this quarry. Your father's father may have stood here too, though no one knows his name now. The overseer calls out instructions, his voice half lost in the racket of hammer blows and shouted warnings. You lift a wooden lever with your workmates, wedging it under a block that weighs more than a herd of cattle. The lever creaks, ropes tighten, men grunt and strain. The block shifts with a dull groan, like some ancient beast waking from sleep. You feel the strain in your arms, your back, your knees, the same strain that will come again tomorrow and the day after. It is endless, the same motions under the same sun. But you do not mind, not yet, for now your body is strong, your belly full, your mind focused only on the next task, the next step up the ramp. Nearby, teams of haulers stand ready. They wrap thick ropes around the block, leaning into the first heave that will pull it onto the sled. The sled itself is a simple wooden platform, its runners greased with water or milk to ease the drag over sand and stone. Dozens of men line up beside it, feet braced, muscles straining, a chant rising low from their throats. Heave, ho, heave, ho. The chant helps you all move as one creature. It keeps the pace steady. It keeps your mind from drifting to the pain in your hands, the burn in your shoulders. Inch by inch the block slides forward. The ground trembles faintly under its weight. Up ahead, water bearers scatter jars of water along the path, wetting the sand to make it slicker. You pass them. Young boys, some no older than your youngest son, faces serious with the weight of their small duty. One boy glances up at you with wide eyes, then hurries on with his clay jar. Sometimes the work stops when a block cracks the wrong way, or when a rope snaps. A sudden shout, a whip of tension released, men diving aside. There are bruises, broken bones, crushed feet. Death does not come often, but when it does, it comes swiftly, under stone that does not forgive. And so there are quiet prayers muttered under your breath as you pull. Prayers to keep your limbs strong, your luck steady, your spirit whole. Above all this noise, the scrape of sleds, the shouts, the creak of rope, the pyramid watches you. Its rising tiers aligned with other teams, masons chipping blocks smooth, overseers marking angles with ropes and plumb bobs, scribes scratching notes on shards of pottery. Some say Pharaoh Khufu himself has walked among the workers, though you've never seen him. You've heard that sometimes he visits, tall and wrapped in linen, the living god surveying his stairway to the heavens. Whether he does or not, you feel his presence, or at least the weight of his dream pressing down through every stone you drag. When the noon sun strikes the quarry walls, the heat shimmers like a living thing. Sweat drips from your brow, salt stings your eyes, but you keep your rhythm, one block at a time, one chant at a time, one prayer at a time. Soon there will be a rest, a moment to sit in the sparse shade, share bread, dip a handful of dates in beer, laugh softly with your crew. For now, you keep pulling. The stone keeps moving, the pyramid keeps growing. And so, under the same wide sky that has watched you since you were born, you are bound to this place, to the dust, to the heat, to the ancient promise that your work will live forever, even if your name does not. The sun hangs overhead now like a polished copper disc burning through the thin cloth wrapped around your head. But at last the overseer's signal comes, a low blast from a ram's horn, echoing across the quarry and the rising ramps of the pyramid's side. You and your crew let the thick rope slip from your raw palms. Arms heavy as stone, you step away from the block you've dragged halfway up the ramp since dawn. Another team will take over after the break, or maybe you'll return to it again, your shoulders already knowing the weight that waits for you. For now, you trudge down a short path to the cluster of shelters, simple lean-tos made of palm branches and scraps of woven reed mats. There, the desert's pitiless sun loses some of its bite. A patch of shade feels like a blessing handed down from Ra himself. You settle down among your workmates, men with broad backs and sun-browned skin, some laughing, some nursing bruises, all equally coated in a fine powder of pale limestone dust. It clings to your hair, to the creases of your elbows, to the sweat that beads along your spine. A boy passes you a small basket. Inside are flat loaves, still warm from the communal oven. You break one open. The crumb is dense and coarse, bits of husk crunch between your teeth. It tastes of barley and salt and something faintly sour, the memory of fermentation. It is not a feast, but it is enough. Beside you, an older man named Renef, you know him well, he's hauled stone since before your eldest child was born, tilts a clay jar toward your hands. The beer inside is thick, cloudy, more gruel than drink. It smells earthy, pungent, faintly sweet. You sip it slowly. It is warm from the sun, but it slides down your throat and fills your belly with a soft, sleepy warmth. You hear the easy chatter of the crew around you. One man teases another for slipping on a patch of wet sand that morning. Another swears he glimpsed a cobra near the quarry wall, though everyone doubts him, and they all laugh. The laughter lifts the weariness from your chest for a moment, and you lean back against a block of cut limestone, its surface still rough under your shoulder blades. Somewhere nearby, a scribe is recording rations, counting jars of beer, loaves of bread, baskets of onions. You watch him from the corner of your eye, his reed pen scratching against a broken piece of pottery, a potsherd, where he writes in careful lines of hieratic script. The scribes hold the true power here, some say, more than the foreman, more than the craftsman who shaped the stone. They hold the records, they hold your name, they hold proof that you were here, and that you were fed for your labour. You tear another piece of bread and chew slowly. The salt on your tongue reminds you of the fields at home, the smell of wet earth when the Nile floods, the way your wife's hands smell of onions when she lifts a basket at the market. You feel a pang of longing, sharp but gentle, easily folded away for now. Your mind drifts to the stories told around the fires at night, of men who fell under moving stones and were buried where they lay, their names erased but their bones sealed forever within the pyramid's hidden passages. Some say the spirits of these lost labourers wander the site when the moon is high, whispering through the cracks in the limestone. Some say they guard the king in his tomb, loyal even in death. Renef leans close, lowering his voice to tell you again, as if you haven't heard it 100 times, that a team found a hidden chamber last month, deep inside the pyramid's growing heart. He claims they saw painted walls, the eye of Horus watching from the dark, though he admits quickly he didn't see it himself. You let the old man's story wash over you. It doesn't matter if it's true. In this place, myths are as real as stone. A warm breeze stirs the air under the shelter, carrying the scents of dust, sweat, barley, and the far-off promise of the river beyond the ridge. Your eyes grow heavy. Some men nap, heads resting on folded arms. Others stretch sore limbs. There is laughter, but softer now, like the hush before sleep. Soon the horn will sound again. You will stand, brush dust from your linen kilt, and grasp the rope once more. But for now, you close your eyes. You listen to the heartbeat of thousands of men at work and rest, the quiet chorus of a dream being carved from living stone. The break is over before you're ready, but the horn sounds again, and the soft shade is left behind as you stand, stretch your aching legs, and rejoin the flow of men back toward the ramp. The sled you and your crew began pulling at dawn waits where you left it. The stone block settled heavily on its runners, half buried in churned-up sand. You wipe sweat from your brow with the back of your hand, feeling the grit stick to your skin, then bend your shoulders to the rope again. The chant rises, steady, breath and muscle bound together, and the block moves. The ramps that snake up the side of the pyramid are marvels in themselves, though no one here would ever think to call them that. They are simply there, as much a part of daily life as the midday heat, or the bite of rope against calloused palms. Some are straight, some spiral gently around the pyramid's growing tiers, some branch off toward new corners where fresh stone must be set. They are made of mud brick, rubble, limestone chippings, whatever can be packed tight enough to bear the weight of men and stone. When the season ends or the angle grows too steep, new ramps will be built higher up, the old ones dismantled and their bricks reused. Nothing is wasted here. Everything bends to the Pharaoh's plan. Up the ramp you go, step by grinding step, the sled skidding over wet sand poured ahead by water-bearers who move like ghosts among the labourers. You feel your feet slip sometimes on the slick patches, your knees strain, but you dare not falter. The overseers stand along the ramp, thin sticks in hand, more for show than punishment, but you've seen lashes fall before, a slack rope, a careless foot, a man drifting from the line. The work must never stop. Higher up you pass gangs of masons waiting to receive the block. Their tools lie ready, copper chisels, dolerite pounders, wooden mallets that have shaped thousands of stones like this one. They are craftsmen, a step above you in skill and status. Many are permanent workers here, not seasonal conscripts. Some have wives and children living in stone houses near the base of the pyramid, better quarters than your own, with more food and more beer. You wonder sometimes if your son will ever become a mason, if he'll hold a chisel instead of a rope. Near the top of the ramp, the air seems clearer, though the sun beats down harder with no shelter to break its glare. The view stretches wide, the Nile a pale ribbon in the distance, fields gleaming under the floodwaters, the workers' village laid out like a patchwork of dusty brown and brittle green. Beyond that, the desert rolls away in waves of sand, hiding tombs older than memory, forgotten kings, bones that will never know the light again. You feel the pull in your arms change as the block reaches its resting place. Voices bark orders, the sled halts, ropes are untied, masons circle the stone, tapping here and there with chisels, marking the spots where the rough edges must be shaved clean. You stand back, catching your breath, arms limp at your sides. A pair of scribes stand nearby under a small linen awning that flaps lazily in the breeze. They talk in low voices, counting loads, noting your crew's progress on a smooth limestone tablet. Sometimes you wonder what happens to those numbers, where they go, who reads them once they're carried away from the quarry, from the pyramid, perhaps all the way to Memphis or the royal palace itself. You know better than to ask. A worker does not question what lies beyond the next block, the next ramp, the next breath. Your foreman claps his hands, his voice sharp and dry. Another block is waiting below. The ramp seems steeper on the way down, your legs shaky from strain, but you welcome the short descent. For a moment you steal a glance at the stone rising tier by tier, pale limestone that will one day gleam under the sun so bright it will blind any who dare stare too long. They say its finished sides will be smooth as polished bone, the burial chamber sealed in the heart of the mountain you're helping to lift skyward, stone by stone. You know you will never see it finished. Few here will. The work will outlast your body, your children's bodies, maybe even their children's too. But you know, as your feet find the ramp's base again and your hands find the rope once more, that your breath is in the stone now. Your sweat is in its seams, and long after your name is dust, this place will stand, a testament carved by countless hands like yours, reaching toward the sun. When the day's last light turns the western sky to copper and violet, the ramps fall quiet at last. The overseer's horn sounds once more, sharp and low, and you feel the rope slip from your fingers for the final time today. Shoulders stiff, hands raw, you follow the stream of men trudging back down the ramps toward the village that has grown like a second city in the shadow of the rising pyramid. The workers' village is a world of its own, built just far enough from the base of the pyramid to be out of the noise of falling stone and the watchful eyes of foremen. Rows of simple mud brick huts stand shoulder to shoulder, their walls sun-baked and patched with straw and scraps of cloth to block the wind when it blows cold off the desert at night. Smoke drifts from small hearths, where women and boys tend pots of boiling stew. The smell of lentils, onions, leeks. It wraps around you as you pass between the narrow alleys, your stomach stirring despite the ache in your bones. Inside your own hut, you share your space with half a dozen others from your crew. The floor is packed earth, scattered with mats woven from palm reeds. There is little here but a few clay jars for beer, baskets for bread, and a tangle of tools leaning against the far wall. Yet here, the weight of the overseer's voice does not reach you. Here, you are simply yourself, a man among other men, sons of farmers and herders bound together by stone. You step inside, drop to the mat you share with a young cousin, who snores loudly the moment his head touches the ground. Another man fusses with a splinter in his foot, muttering curses to some small household god to keep fever away. You ease your sore feet from their sandals and rub at the raw patch on your shoulder, where the rope has bitten through skin again. Outside, fires flicker to life in clay braziers set along the lane. Neighbours call greetings to each other, voices carrying laughter despite the weight of the day. A boy runs past your doorway, chased by a gang of others, all skinny legs and shrill giggles. His mother shouts after him to come back for supper, her voice full of warmth and weariness all at once. You think of your own wife now, miles away in your home village along the floodplain. If the harvest is good, she'll have enough barley to trade for oil and dried fish. She'll press dates into sweet cakes to sell at the riverside market. You imagine her bending over the fire with your children nearby, your eldest practicing his letters with a borrowed reed pen, your youngest still small enough to cling to her hip. Sometimes you wonder if she misses you, or if she's simply learned, as all wives do, to carry your absence like another basket balanced on her shoulder. You have saved some copper rings this season, enough perhaps for new sandals for her, or a clay jar painted with lotus flowers that she could set beside her bed. One of your crewmates produces a jar of thick beer, passing it around the circle of tired men. The brew is strong tonight, bitter but comforting, filling your belly with warmth that cuts the edge of hunger. A few crusts of bread make their way into your hands. You chew slowly, letting talk drift over you. Gossip of overseers, boasts about who hauled the heaviest block, quiet prayers that tomorrow brings no snapped ropes or crushed limbs. Farther down the lane a drum starts up. Someone's small celebration, or perhaps just an excuse to remind tired bones they are still alive. A few men clap in rhythm, laughing as one breaks into a stumbling dance, feet kicking up dust that glows in the light of the fires. You lean back against the cool wall of your hut, feeling the clay against your sore spine. For a few heartbeats, the pyramid feels far away, the stone and sweat and sun left behind beyond the darkness that gathers outside your door. Here there is only warmth, rough laughter, the taste of barley on your tongue, the low hum of voices telling stories older than the pharaoh himself. Tomorrow you will rise before dawn, tie your rope again, put your shoulder to the same ancient task. But tonight, in this small village hidden between desert and stone, you let the ache of the day slip from your bones, surrounded by the quiet company of men who, like you, have given their strength to build something that will stand long after all of you are gone. Morning comes before you feel ready to greet it. The village rouses slowly in the blue hush before sunrise. A coughing chorus of tired men pulling on linen kilts, shaking dust from mats, rubbing sleep from swollen eyes. A thin haze of smoke drifts through the alleys as cooking fires spark back to life. Mothers press warm bread into rough hands. Boys chase stray goats out of the lanes. An old woman sweeps ash from a doorway with a reed broom more patchwork than bristle. You join the line that snakes out of the village toward the pyramid's looming bulk. Already its flanks glow faintly gold in the first rays of sun, the highest tiers catching the light before it reaches the men below. You pass the graves on the outskirts, shallow pits marked with plain limestone slabs, rough symbols scratched into the surface by someone who knew just enough signs to name the dead. The elders say that when a labourer dies, he's buried here, close enough for his spirit to see the stone he helped lift toward the sky. There is no fine tomb, no painted chamber full of food and spells, just a pit dug quickly into the sand, the body wrapped in linen if there is linen to spare, the name whispered to the gods in the hope it will stick like wet mud to a wall. Some graves have offerings, a broken pot, a handful of bread, a jar of beer thick with sediment. You know who leaves these gifts, a friend who shared a rope, a brother who hauled the same sled. They come at dusk when the overseer's horn has gone silent, and the desert wind is the only witness. They set the bread at the foot of the stone, press a palm to the slab's chalky face, murmur a few words that will never appear in any scribe's record. Then they turn away, step back into the living world, leaving the dead to keep their silent watch. As you walk past these resting places, you wonder which of your crewmates will lie here before the pyramid reaches its peak. You wonder if you will. It is not morbid to think it. It is simply truth, stitched into every rope fibre, carved into every block's hard edge. A slip of the sled, a fall from a ramp, a crush beneath tons of stone. The danger is as constant as the sun. Some say the men who die beneath the stones are lucky, forever joined to the pharaoh's tomb, closer to eternity than a farmer's bones rotting far from any monument. Your foot kicks up dust that settles softly on the graves, a reminder that the desert is patient, always ready to swallow the careless and the careful alike. Somewhere beyond the low ridges, jackals stir in the dawn gloom, drawn by the scent of death when it comes sudden and quiet. Sometimes the guards chase them off, sometimes they do not bother. There will always be more bodies. This the desert knows. You lift your gaze to the ramps ahead, the swarm of men already moving like ants across the pale skeleton of the pyramid. The noise grows louder with every step. Shouts, the grind of stone on sled, the dry scrape of chisels on raw blocks. You shift the rope over your shoulder, testing the tender skin beneath your linen wrap. The same crew, the same block, the same chant waiting at the ramp's foot. Behind you, the village exhales the last warmth of sleep. Ahead, the grave field waits patient for its next name. And between the two stands the mountain of stone, the pharaoh's promise of eternity, bought with the slow offering of your flesh, your breath, your days one after another, laid down like bricks beneath the weight of kings. There is no time to think more than this. The foreman calls, the rope tightens, and your feet begin to climb again through the whispering drift of sand that always wants you back. The ramp's lower slope is crowded with men and sleds jostling for space like barges pressed too close on the river. Foremen stand at intervals along the path, their shaved heads shining in the harsh sun, thin sticks tapping rhythmically against their palms. They shout orders above the grunt of labour and the scrape of stone, voices sharp as chisels cutting through the noise. Your own overseer, Hori, waits at the bend where the ramp angles upward more steeply. He is not cruel, but he is not soft either. His task is clear: to keep the blocks moving, the ropes tight, the crew alive but never idle. You have heard the way he speaks to the scribes in the shade, calm and polite, as if he wears another face when they stand beside him with their tablets and ink. But when he turns back to the men, that second face disappears. There is only the voice that snaps like a whip, the eyes that miss nothing. Today he catches your glance and holds it a moment longer than usual. A fresh rope burn glares angry red across your shoulder. He says nothing but shifts his stick from hand to hand, as if deciding whether to speak. In the end, he looks past you to the block you and Renef and the others drag behind. He points with the stick's tip, a silent command. Move faster. Keep the line straight. Do not make him speak twice. Hori knows every name in his crew, every brother and cousin tied to each man hauling stone up the ramp. If you falter, if you slip, he does not shout first. He asks if your family will eat when the rations are cut. He asks if your neighbour will carry your share when your back gives out. He does not threaten punishment outright. He reminds you of what hunger tastes like when the scribes cross your name from the list. You keep your eyes low, your hands tight on the rope. The block jerks forward in a sudden lurch as the chant lifts around you. Breath sink to muscle, muscle sink to stone. You feel the vibration through your feet, the rasp of sled runners over wet sand, the hiss of water poured ahead to ease the drag. Renef mutters a curse between clenched teeth. He is older, his knees stiff, but his grip on the rope never loosens. You see the other crews working their own loads, some smaller, finely carved casing stones destined for the pyramid's gleaming outer layer, others rougher core blocks that will be buried deep inside, never touched by sun again once they find their place. Each stone has its own story, chiselled from quarries miles away, floated down the river in barges that bump low through muddy channels when the Nile's flood runs high. Each one bears the marks of masons, quarrymen and scribes, all these hands pressed into its surface like ghost fingerprints that only the stone remembers. Hori moves ahead of you now, pacing backward up the slope, eyes flicking from your rope to the next, counting the drag of feet, the angle of shoulders bent under weight. Once, when you first arrived seasons ago, you thought you hated him. His voice, his stick, his questions that cut deeper than a whip ever could. Now you know he is just another block to carry. He does not build for himself. He builds because the Pharaoh's order rolls downhill like a boulder and flattens everything in its path. The sun is higher now, a pale coin burning white above the limestone terraces. Sweat runs from your scalp into your eyes. You taste salt and grit on your lips as you lean forward, adding your weight to the rope just as the block catches on a bump in the ramp. The whole crew strains, feet slip, a shout goes up, someone stumbles. Hori's voice cuts through the panic, calm but sharp. Dig in, push, he snaps, and the line obeys. The stone budges, shifts, slides forward again. You feel the moment pass. Danger dissolves back into routine. For now. Renef catches your eye and gives a dry, toothless grin. Another slip avoided. Another name kept off the grave field at the ramp's base. Hori walks on, stick tapping the stone edge of the ramp. You watch him for a moment as the block crawls behind him like an obedient beast. He is part of the pyramid, like you. Neither the mind nor the stone, but the force that binds them together keeps them moving toward the sky. And when he turns back and his eyes meet yours again, you lower your head, dig your feet into the sand, and haul the rope tighter. By midday, the sun stands overhead like a burning eye, and the ramp becomes a narrow river of heat shimmering off pale stone. The horn's call echoes over the terraces, the signal for the mid-shift meal, a brief mercy that breaks the endless drag of sled and rope. You ease your grip on the coarse hemp, muscles trembling from the strain that never really leaves your limbs, and follow your crew to the shade thrown by a half-built wall of limestone blocks. Here the world feels a little softer. You settle onto a block, its surface warm but smooth. your back pressed against another that casts a thin line of shadow across your shoulders. The smell of sweat is all around. Yours, your crewmates, the pyramid's very breath rising from the thousands of bodies that feed its growth. But mingled with it drifts the sharper scent of leeks and bread, the sour tang of fresh beer sloshing in clay jars passed from hand to hand. The ration boys arrive in a stumbling file, each balancing baskets and jars against bony hips. You know their faces, sons of labourers too young to pull stone but old enough to carry food from the village kitchens to the ramps. One of them, a boy called Kebi, always finds you first. He drops to a crouch, unwrapping a small bundle of coarse linen. Inside, 2 rough barley loaves, flat and cracked from the clay oven's heat, and a chunk of dried fish that flakes into salty shards under your fingers. Kebi watches you tear a piece of bread and stuff it into your mouth. His eyes are wide, curious. He sees his own future in you. The rope burns on your shoulders, the dust caked into your hair. Maybe one day he'll stand where you stand, a man in the line, his back bent under Pharaoh's will. Or maybe not. Maybe his father has coins enough to send him to learn letters, to scrape papyrus with a reed pen instead of hauling sleds over wet sand. You nod your thanks, pressing a scrap of bread into his palm in return. A small kindness he pockets quickly before slipping down the ramp to the next hungry crew. Around you, men chew in silence or speak low words about nothing that lasts. The score of the day's haul, the cracked sled that needs fixing, the mason who cursed the overseer under his breath and nearly found his back under the stick. The beer comes next, thick, cloudy, sour enough to bite your tongue but filling enough to soften the ache in your gut. You pass the jar to Renef, who wipes the rim on his wrist and drinks deep before handing it back. A man could live on bread and beer alone here. Many do. There is meat sometimes, salted goat or scraps of fish when the river runs generous. But it is bread that builds the bones, beer that fills the belly when the stone's pull has stolen all other strength. You lean your head back against the block behind you, the rough limestone scraping your scalp. For a few stolen breaths you close your eyes, feel the sun press through your eyelids like an ember. The chatter around you turns into a low hum, broken now and then by laughter that dies as quickly as it rises. Somewhere farther down the ramp, a mason's hammer rings out. He works through the meal, reshaping an imperfect block that must fit flush with its brothers, or risk a crack that could split the pyramid's skin wide open. You break another piece of bread, chewing slowly, tasting the grit that hides in the flour. No millstone can keep it all away. Your teeth crunch on sand as much as grain, but you do not care. The bread fills your hollow stomach, steadies your hands for the work waiting after the horn's next call. Renef mutters that the beer tastes weak today. You shrug. It is still beer, still cool enough to wash the salt from your tongue, still bitter enough to remind you that the village kitchens stand ready every day to feed the stone's hunger through you. The scribes record the rations like they record the blocks, every loaf counted, every jar weighed, every mouth measured against the Pharaoh's grand plan. You wonder sometimes what happens when the count does not add up, but you know better than to ask. The horn will sound again soon. You rub the crumbs from your hands onto your kilt, draining the last swallow from the jar. Around you, men stand and stretch, bones popping like reeds in a windstorm. The sun shows no mercy. It never does. But the bread and beer have given you just enough strength to stand once more, grip the rope again, and offer your flesh to the stone for another few hours. In this small, dusty meal you taste the cost of eternity. Barley and salt, grit and sweat. The simple things that bind your life to the Pharaoh's dream rising step by step toward the endless sky. Once the mid-meal rations are gone and the last swallow of beer has warmed your belly, the horn's cry winds through the ramps again, thin but sharp enough to cut through the chatter and laughter that has begun to soften the sun's weight on your shoulders. You push yourself upright from the shade of the limestone wall, knees complaining as you straighten your back, the taste of gritty barley still coating your teeth. The rope waits for you where you left it, coiled like a snake beside the sled's runners. Renef gives you a dry nod, then spits in the sand and adjusts the strip of linen at his brow. All around you, the crews gather themselves back together, loose lines drawn tight again, the easy warmth of bread and beer folded back into the heat-hardened rhythm of work. But before the next block can be dragged up the slope, the mason calls for a pause. His hammer rings out twice, then a third time, a sharp signal that halts the rope teams and draws the foreman to the block, already waiting halfway up the ramp. The overseer gestures for you and Renef to hold. The rope sags in your hands, heavy but still for once. You watch the mason step onto the sled itself, a wiry man with a shaved head, his bare back layered with sunburn and old scars from stone chips that flew too close. He runs his fingers over the block's edge, tapping it with his hammer's flat face, listening for the hidden flaw that could betray the pyramid long after your bones are dust. A whisper runs through the line. Not all flaws are visible to a chisel's cut. Some hide deep inside the stone, a thin vein of weakness waiting to split under the crushing weight of all the blocks stacked above. Better to find the flaw here, under the sun, than bury it in the heart of the pharaoh's tomb where a single crack could ruin the king's bridge to eternity. When he finds the place he doesn't like, the mason lifts his hammer again. He hums a thin tune under his breath, a low melody that drifts across the ramp like a reed flute's sigh. You've heard it before. They say it keeps his swing steady, keeps the break clean. The hum rises and falls, matching the rhythm of his strokes. With each strike, pale chips flake away, dancing down the sled's side to scatter in the damp sand. Beside you, Renef shifts his weight and mutters that the mason's tune is older than the pharaoh's line, the same song his grandfather sang while trimming limestone blocks at a temple upriver. You imagine the tune echoing through generations of stonecutters, each one carving the same sharp breath into granite, sandstone, limestone. Each one tapping flaws from the bones of the earth so kings can dream they stand forever. It is a gentle sound, this hammer's song, but beneath it lies a quiet threat. If the stone will not yield to the mason's touch, then the rope crew will haul it back down, return it to the quarry where the broken blocks lie stacked like failed prayers, and that means wasted time, wasted sweat, wasted rations marked down by the scribes in their tallies of loss. So you watch him work and hope the floor is shallow, the block willing. The foreman squats nearby, his stick resting across his knees for now, tapping it lightly against the stone as if urging it to behave. A few other masons stand farther up the ramp, chanting between them in the same soft rhythm, voices half lost beneath the wind. At last, the song stops. The mason wipes the dust from his palms, runs his fingertips over the fresh edge. He nods once to the overseer, who raises his hand. You feel the line of the rope grow taut again in your grasp. Renef grunts approval. The chatter dies behind you. In the silence that follows, the block seems to breathe with you. Stone and man caught in the same exhale, bound by the same promise. Then the foreman drops his hand. The chant rises once more from your crew, low and steady. Your boots dig into wet sand scattered in front of the sled's runners. The block lurches forward, newly shaped, its floor cut away by the mason's hum. The pyramid's belly opens to swallow it, another secret added to the thousands buried inside. Step by step you haul it upward, the hammer's song still faint in your ears, as if the stone remembers what it heard and hums it back to the bones and sweat that carry it closer to the sky. When the sun slides westward, its heat turns sharp and angled. Shadows stretch like dark rivers between the pyramid's terraces. The rope crews do not rest yet. There is another task waiting when the blocks run thin and the foreman's horn signals that the ramps hunger for more. You feel it before you see it. The quiet dread that pulls in your gut when the sled is unhitched and the overseer's finger points down the slope, not up. Quarry time. The quarries yawn wide in the desert's edge, shallow scars cut deep into limestone beds that once lay hidden beneath a skin of sand and scrub. You know the path by heart now, the worn track that winds through low ridges where the heat grows thick and muffled, as if the desert holds its breath while men rip stone from its bones. You trudge with the line of men, your feet dragging small storms of powdery dust. There are no fresh breezes here, only the sour wind that blows across old spoil heaps and abandoned cuts where failed blocks lie in broken piles like half-buried teeth. When you reach the quarry's lip, the hum of chisels and hammers greets you, a dull clatter that never truly ends, day or night. Here you see the stone's first birth. Raw limestone walls studded with wedges, ropes looped around half-freed blocks that cling stubbornly to their mother-bed. The quarrymen move like pale ghosts in the haze of rock dust. Their eyes are rimmed red, their lungs hold a cough that scratches from throat to ribs. You catch Renef's glance. He hates this part more than any ramp or rope. You join a team gathering around a fresh cut marked by a master mason. The marks are simple but final, a grid of chisel scratches, lines that promise the stone will break here and not elsewhere. A wedge is hammered in, wooden shims pounded dry, then soaked with water to swell the wood tight in its groove. The crack runs like lightning, quiet but sudden. A shiver ripples through the wall, and a block the size of a man's tomb door shifts free of the quarry's cold grip. It is not simple, though. Never simple. A block can betray the mason's marks, can split wrong, shear off an edge that took days to cut clean. When this happens, the stone becomes rubble, nothing but fill for the inner core, or worse, wasted work. So every hammer strike is careful, every wedge tapped like a priest's whisper to the earth. You stand ready at the rope, waiting for the foreman's signal when the crack sighs open enough to promise freedom. When it does, you lean your weight into the rope with your crewmates, boots sliding on chalky powder as you coax the block onto a waiting sled. The sled runners shriek as they take the weight. You tie down the block with rough hemp, winding the rope tight around its belly as if binding a beast that might leap away if given a moment's breath. Nearby, another block breaks badly. A dull thud, a shout of anger, a hammer flung in the dust. The quarrymaster curses the floor, curses the wedge, curses the stone's stubborn heart. But no one stops to mourn. There are other blocks waiting, other cuts to mark, other wedges to wet and hammer home. As dusk begins to bleed into the sky, the quarry's hum deepens into a growl. Low voices, the rasp of ropes pulled taut, the creak of sleds beginning their slow crawl back toward the ramp. You feel the fatigue down in your bones, pressed between your shoulder blades and your knees, where the stone's pull settles like a cold weight. Renef wipes his brow with the edge of his kilt, leaving a pale smear of limestone grit across his forehead. He spits again, a habit he's picked up here, trying to clear the dust from his throat but never quite winning. The foreman passes by, counting blocks with a nod, tallying your day's sweat into the scribe's neat ledgers, waiting by the village's edge. You watch him mark the number with a stub of reed, black ink against pale papyrus. A record of your body's worth in stone, another silent promise that the pyramid will grow taller tomorrow. As the last sled shudders forward under its burden, you trail behind, your feet dragging small scars into the quarry's chalky floor. The limestone wall watches you go, its fresh wounds open to the deepening dusk, waiting for you to come back tomorrow and cut again, wedge again, carry away another piece of the desert's ancient heart. After the grueling hours spent beneath the quarry's face and the endless climb of the ramp, the village offers a brief reprieve, a patchwork of mud brick huts and dusty lanes nestled against the western edge of the worksite, where the Nile's whispers reach faintly across the desert. You trudge down the slope, your feet stiff, your body aching as the shadows grow long and the air cools into a softer kind of heat. The village is modest but alive with small sounds. Children laughing and chasing each other between the low walls, women pounding grain or weaving reeds by firelight, dogs nosing through piles of discarded food scraps. You know many of these faces, fathers and sons, brothers and cousins, all caught in the same cycle of stone and sweat. Their lives are tied to the pyramid as surely as yours, a fragile thread woven between rations and labour, whispered prayers and the quiet hope of survival. You move toward your own hut, a small room of mud bricks plastered with straw and clay, its roof patched with palm fronds. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of charred wood and dried herbs, and the floor is covered in woven mats that provide a thin barrier against the cool night sand. Your family waits, your wife, her hands calloused but gentle, and your children, eyes wide and curious despite the dust that clings to their skin. Tonight, your daughter holds a small piece of bread in her hand, saving it for you despite the hunger gnawing at her own belly. She looks up when you enter, a fleeting smile breaking through the fatigue that clouds your face. You touch her hair softly, feeling the warmth of life that is yours beyond the stone's cold weight. Dinner is simple, more barley bread, a bowl of lentils and a small portion of salted fish, a rare treat after a hard day. The taste is familiar but precious, a reminder of a life that exists outside the relentless demands of the pyramid's growth. You eat slowly, savouring each bite not just for nourishment, but for the fleeting comfort it brings. The village evening is quiet but not silent. From the neighbouring hut you hear a soft melody, an old song passed down through generations, telling stories of the river, of gods and kings, of men like you who build not just with stone but with hope. The song drifts through the open window, mingling with the flicker of oil lamps and the low murmur of voices sharing tales and dreams. You sit back, your body sinking into the rough woven mat, and let the day's exhaustion settle into a heavy calm. Outside, the stars begin to prick the sky. Distant fires dot the horizon where other villages tend their own small lives. The pyramid looms above you, a silent giant growing heavier with each passing day. But here in your hut, surrounded by family and the hum of simple life, you find a moment's peace before the dawn pulls you back to the stone. The night deepens around the village like a dark cloak, folding every sound into silence except for the distant murmur of the Nile and the occasional rustle of desert wind through palm fronds. You lie on your woven mat, the coarse fibres pressing into your skin, the cool night air slipping through the cracks in the mud brick walls. Your body is heavy from the day's labour, each ache and cramp a reminder of the stone you carried, the ropes you pulled, the endless climb toward the pyramid's growing shadow. Above you, the stars wheel slowly across the sky, cold and distant witnesses to lives measured not in days but in the slow layering of blocks. You imagine the same stars shining over the quarries and ramps, over the crews working by torchlight when the pharaoh's orders demand it. Even in sleep, the pyramid never truly rests. Your thoughts drift to the men you worked beside today, their faces streaked with sweat and dust, their eyes weary and tired. Some bear scars from past accidents, a broken arm bound too late, a crushed foot left to heal poorly, a rope burn that never quite fades. These injuries are the pyramid's silent toll, the price paid in flesh and bone for the pharaoh's eternal dream. You think of Renef, his gruff voice and steady hands, the way he never complains though his knees betray him. You wonder how many more seasons he can endure this life before the stone finally claims him. The foremen keep track of such things quietly, who grows weak, who limps, who stops showing up at the morning muster. Names vanish from the rolls like stones falling from the ramp swallowed by dust and time. Sleep threatens to pull you under, but before you close your eyes, a memory rises unbidden. The taste of fresh bread and sour beer at midday, the mason's soft hammer song, the crack of wedges splitting limestone. Each moment is a thread in the tapestry of your days, a fragile balance between survival and sacrifice. Outside, the village breathes in the dark, the gentle rise and fall of voices settling into dreams. You lie still, feeling the weight of night pressing down but holding you safe for a while longer, until dawn calls you back to the ropes, the stone, the endless work beneath the blazing sun. Morning breaks quietly, the first pale light filtering through cracks in the mud brick walls of the village huts. You rise slowly, muscles stiff from yesterday's toil, and nights heavy with restless sleep. Outside, the soft chorus of birds and the distant call of a herdsman blend with the gentle rustling of palm leaves stirred by a cooling breeze. The world seems gentle now, but you know the day will grow harsh and unyielding soon enough. As you prepare yourself to return to the pyramid, your thoughts drift to the men whose faces tell stories not spoken aloud, the ones who carry hidden scars deeper than flesh. Some bear the marks of ancient injuries, a crooked finger or a twisted ankle that no healer's touch could mend. Others move with a cautious gait, their eyes alert for dangers the rest have learned to ignore. You remember Ibrahim, a quiet man whose smile rarely reaches his eyes. Months ago, a block slipped during the haul and crushed his left leg. The village healer did what she could, binding the wound and setting the bones, but the pain never fully left him. Now he works lighter duties, guiding sleds rather than pulling ropes, his hands trembling as he fights the slow wear of infection and despair. These scars are more than wounds. They're reminders of a precarious existence. Every day spent under the blazing sun, and the pyramid's growing shadow chips away at the body and soul. The overseers watch carefully, for injured men slow the work and whispers of weakness bring swift judgment. But within the crews, these men are silent heroes, bearing their pain with quiet dignity, each breath a testament to resilience amid relentless hardship. You touch your own shoulder where a rope burn cracked your skin last week. The wound is healing, but the ache lingers, a small echo of the stone's claim on your flesh. You wonder how many men before you have carried such marks, how many have vanished into the dust without a name, their stories swallowed by the very pyramid they helped raise. The village hums with life around you, children playing in the dusty streets, women preparing the day's meals, the distant bleat of goats tethered near the water's edge. Yet beneath this surface of ordinary life runs an undercurrent of shared endurance, a silent understanding that each man here is a thread in the great tapestry of Pharaoh's vision, woven tightly by sweat, sacrifice, and the unyielding stone. You gather your strength, tying your worn kilt and wrapping your head with a linen strip to keep the sun at bay. The rope calls again, the sled waits, and the pyramid's vast silhouette beckons like a spectre rising against the sky. You step toward the ramp, ready to face the day, carrying with you the hidden scars of all those who came before, the quiet burden of those who build eternity one stone at a time. The sun rises steadily, casting long golden fingers over the edge of the desert and spilling light like molten gold across the pyramid's vast angular frame. You stand once more at the base of the ramp, the cool morning air already growing thick with the scent of dust and sweat, the distant murmur of voices stirring like a slow tide. The day ahead will be another thread woven tightly into the fabric of your life, a tapestry stitched with toil, endurance, and quiet moments that ripple beneath the harsh demands of Pharaoh's will. Around you, the rhythm of the labourers begins to settle into its familiar cadence. Men stretch their limbs stiff from sleep, adjusting their simple linen kilts, wiping sweat from furrowed brows with strips of cloth twisted into makeshift bands. The overseers patrol the lines, their voices sharp but measured, calling out instructions that rise and fall like the steady beat of a drum. The rope crews line up, gripping thick strands of hemp with hands calloused and cracked, knuckles white with the strain that is as constant as the desert sun. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight of the rope coil like a living thing in your palms, a tangible link between your body and the massive limestone block resting patiently on the sled. The stone is cold beneath your fingertips, its surface flecked with tiny grains that sparkle faintly like ancient stars caught in the dust. It waits to be carried, to be pulled inch by heavy inch up the ramp that stretches before you like a narrow wound carved into the earth. The work is slow, painstaking, but it is also oddly rhythmic. The chant rises again among the men, a low and steady murmur that matches the measured pull of the sled's runners against the sand. The calls of encouragement, the creak of ropes taut against strain, the crunch of boots on dust. Each sound blends into the next, a layered harmony that both sustains and dulls the senses. It is a symphony of labour, composed over seasons and generations, echoing off the pyramid's smooth, unfinished faces. As you pull, your mind drifts beyond the immediate effort. You think of the village waiting behind you, the simple mud brick huts clustered like ancient seeds against the desert's edge. You recall the faces of your family, their tired smiles, the quiet sacrifices hidden in their everyday gestures, the bread your wife bakes early each morning, the children's laughter caught between fleeting moments of play and chore. All these small lives, fragile and fierce, intertwine with yours in a fragile web of survival, beneath the shadow of the great stone. You also remember the dangers that lurk just beyond the rhythm, the sudden snap of a rope fraying under pressure, the unpredictable slip of a sled on loose sand, the sharp crack of a block splitting too soon or unevenly. Injuries come without warning, some trivial, others that mark a man forever, or steal him from the worksite entirely. Each time a comrade falls, the ripple of fear and sorrow passes through the crews like a cold wind. Yet the work never stops. The pyramid waits for no one. Midway up the ramp, the sun climbs higher, and the heat presses down like a living weight. Sweat streams down your face, mingling with grit and dust, soaking your linen kilt into a heavy, clinging shroud. Your muscles burn, trembling beneath the unyielding load, but still you pull, step by step, inch by grinding inch. The slope feels endless, the sky above a relentless glare, yet the block moves forward, patient, steady, unstoppable. Near the top, the mason's voice rings out again, sharp and precise. He signals for a pause, eyes scanning the block's edges, searching for flaws invisible to the untrained eye. The hammer taps a steady rhythm on the limestone, a song older than the pharaoh himself, and for a brief moment the labour hushes, waiting, listening, trusting. The block shudders, then settles, its secret safe beneath the mason's skilled hand. You exhale, muscles loosening just enough to catch your breath. Around you, the line murmurs approval, the chant rising once more as the sled inches forward to its resting place. A new stone added to the pyramid's growing heart. The sense of accomplishment is quiet but deep, a pulse of purpose that steadies the exhaustion pressing down your limbs. Descending the ramp is a lighter journey, the sled empty now, but your steps remain heavy with fatigue. The village awaits you again, simple, steadfast, a fragile haven beneath the vast sky. Tonight, as you lay your body down on rough mats beneath a ceiling of palm fronds and mud, the aches will throb with the memory of the day's labour, but so too will the faint echo of the mason's hammer, the taste of barley bread and sour beer, and the whispered promise of stones rising forever toward the endless heavens. The evening light softens across the village as you return from the pyramid's relentless embrace, the sun dipping low behind distant dunes and casting long shadows that pull gently in the dusty streets. Your body aches in familiar ways, the tightness in your shoulders, the dull throb in your knees, but there is comfort in routine, a rhythm that steadies you even as it wears you down. Within your small mud brick home, the air carries the faint aroma of cooking, lentils simmering slowly over a fire, dried fish softened in broth, and flatbread still warm from the clay oven. The women of the village work tirelessly to prepare the humble meals that keep the labourers strong enough for the days ahead, their hands steady despite the relentless demands placed upon them. Food here is not abundant, but it is rich with the flavours of the land: barley, lentils, onions, garlic, and small amounts of salted fish, or occasionally fresh river fish. You know that the diet, though simple, is carefully balanced, designed to provide energy and stave off the exhaustion that threatens every man who hauls stone under the burning sun. The sour beer, brewed from barley and often thick with sediment, is more than a drink. It is a staple, a source of hydration and nourishment that soothes parched throats and eases cramped muscles after a day of toil. You sit with your family, breaking bread slowly, sharing the small portion of food as though it were a treasure. The children laugh softly between bites, their faces smeared with flour and dust, eyes bright despite the hardships around them. Their innocence is a fragile light in a world defined by stone and sweat. As you eat, your mind drifts to the others, men like you who have come from distant villages, drawn here by the promise of wages or the call of duty. You think of the scribe who counts your days in the pyramid's shadow, the overseers who measure your strength and your worth with cold precision, and the foreman whose orders carry the weight of Pharaoh's command. There are nights when the village falls silent, but for the crackle of fire and the murmur of whispered prayers to the gods, prayers for protection, for strength, for the safe return of those who climb the pyramid's ramps each day. You too join in these quiet rituals, hands folded in the darkness, hoping for a reprieve from the dangers that lurk unseen, the sudden collapse of a block, the snap of a rope, the exhaustion that can claim a man before the sun even rises. Food is more than sustenance here. It is a thread that ties the lives of many to the work they do, a small comfort that softens the hard edges of survival. With each bite you remember that this life, though brutal and uncertain, is shared, a collective effort bound by sweat, stone, and the faint hope that one day the pyramid will stand as a monument not only to a pharaoh's glory, but to the hands that built it. The meal ends quietly, the last crumbs broken and shared, the fire reduced to glowing embers. Outside, the desert night deepens once more, stars blinking open in the vast silent sky. You prepare to rest, knowing that with the dawn will come the ropes, the sleds, and the endless climb again. Another day in the shadow of eternity. As the days unfold under the relentless Egyptian sun, danger becomes an ever-present companion, woven tightly into the fabric of your labour. The pyramid's vast structure is more than a symbol of power. It is a living, shifting challenge that tests the limits of every man who dares to shape it. You have seen it in the sharp intake of breath, when a block wobbles precariously on the ramp's edge, in the hurried commands shouted over the grinding scrape of stone against stone, and in the silent nods exchanged between those who know too well the risks they face. The ramps themselves are treacherous paths, steep and slick with sand and dust, their surfaces worn by countless feet and sled runners. Each pull of the rope demands perfect coordination. One misstep or faltering grip can send a heavy block careening backward, crushing anything or anyone in its path. You recall the day when a block slipped loose, tumbling with a terrible roar that froze your blood, and the frantic scramble to clear the way before disaster claimed more than stone. Injuries are common, from rope burns that bite into skin to crushed fingers caught between sled and ramp. But worse are the accidents no one speaks of openly. A worker trapped beneath a collapsing block, a mason struck by falling tools, or men overcome by exhaustion and heat stroke in the unforgiving midday sun. The overseers keep a strict tally, marking absences and injuries with quiet efficiency, while the village healer tends wounds with little more than bandages, herbs, and a deep well of resilience. There is also the ever-present threat of illness. Dust fills lungs and clogs throats, turning coughs into a harsh, rasping chorus that never fully fades. Dehydration creeps silently, stealing strength before symptoms appear, and the cramped, crowded huts of the village, though a refuge from the day's work, are breeding grounds for fevers and infections that can spread rapidly among families. Despite these dangers, there is no room for hesitation. The pharaoh's vision demands progress, and the men who build the pyramid move forward with grim determination. Bonds form between comrades not only through shared labour, but through the unspoken understanding of risk. You have learned to watch carefully, to recognise the signs of fatigue and injury in your fellow workers, to steady a faltering step or share your water before the day's end. At night, the village hums with quiet prayers for protection, whispered to gods who promise safety but demand sacrifice. You lie awake sometimes, listening to the desert wind carrying those prayers into the vast dark, wondering how many will return to pull ropes tomorrow, how many names will fade into the dust, lost beneath the pyramid's growing shadow. Still, you rise with the sun, drawn once again to the stone's cold weight, to the rhythm of labour that shapes not just the pyramid, but the lives of all who dare to build it, men bound together by sweat, sacrifice, and the fragile hope that their toil will not be forgotten. There is a strange camaraderie that binds you and the men who pull the great limestone blocks up the ramp each day, a brotherhood forged not in comfort, but in hardship and shared endurance. From dawn's first light until the sun dips low, you move as one body, each muscle tense and synchronized, the ropes slipping through calloused hands and the sleds groaning under the weight of dreams carved in stone. You know each face by heart, the quiet strength of Menka, whose steady rhythm steadies the crew, the quick laugh of Amun, who breaks the tension with jokes despite the exhaustion that threatens to crush him, and the older man, Hapu, whose eyes carry the weight of countless seasons spent beneath the sun's unforgiving gaze. Together you form a chain unbroken, each link essential to the whole. The work is brutal, and yet there is comfort in this unity, a silent language spoken through nods and steady breaths, through the shared pain that no outsider can fully grasp. When a man falters, others shift to bear his weight. When the rope threatens to fray, fingers tighten in unison, preventing disaster by sheer force of will. At midday, the heat becomes a living thing, pressing down on your shoulders and burning the skin beneath the thin linen of your tunic. You pause briefly to drink sour beer and share a piece of bread, sweat mingling with dust on your face as the men gather close, faces flushed and bodies trembling. Even in this exhaustion, there is laughter, stories told softly to distract from the ache that will not fade until night. You remember how it feels when the block finally reaches its resting place, the subtle release of tension as the sled settles on its prepared bed of sand, the shared glance of relief and quiet pride among the crew. For a moment, the pyramid feels less like an impossible mountain and more like a testament to your strength, your unity. Yet this brotherhood is fragile, balanced precariously on the edge of danger and fatigue. Every day you see comrades carried away on stretchers or helped limping back to the village, their bodies broken but their spirits unyielding. The pyramid claims its toll, but it cannot claim the bonds forged beneath its vast silent shadow. As the sun sets and you return to the village, you carry not just the memory of stone and sweat, but the quiet comfort of knowing that you are not alone, held in the steady hands and steadfast hearts of the men who climb beside you, step by grueling step, into the history that you build together. After the grueling labour of hauling stone beneath the unforgiving sun, the village offers a different kind of challenge, a place where wounds are tended and strength is restored, however briefly, by the gentle hands of those who heal. As you stagger into the narrow alleys between the mud brick huts, the dust clings to your skin, the ache in your muscles tempered only by the promise of rest and care. The village healer, an older woman named Neferet, is known for her knowledge of herbs and poultices, passed down from generations long before the pyramid's first block was set. Her small hut smells of dried chamomile, myrrh, and the sharp tang of crushed garlic. The flickering flame of an oil lamp casts soft shadows on walls, lined with bundles of plants and simple tools, stones for grinding, reeds for binding, and clay vessels holding mixtures that soothe fever and ease pain. You approach Nefret with the cautious hope of a man who has been battered by stone and sun, whose body carries the hidden scars of countless days spent under relentless strain. She examines your hands first. The rope burns, the small cuts and abrasions that might otherwise fester if left unattended. Her fingers move carefully, applying a cool paste made from crushed leaves and honey, sealing wounds against the ever-present desert dust. Around you, other men sit or lie on mats, each marked by the pyramid's invisible toll. Ibrahim, whose leg injury still causes him sharp pain, murmurs softly as Nefret wraps his bandages tighter, while a young boy watches anxiously from the doorway, learning the ancient arts that keep their fragile community alive. Nefret's touch is gentle but firm, her words soft in the stillness. She speaks quietly of balance, between work and rest, between strength and healing. She reminds you of the importance of water, of food, of protecting yourself from the sun's cruelty. Yet, beyond the physical remedies, there is a deeper comfort in her presence, a quiet acknowledgement of the struggles you share, of the price paid by every hand that shapes the pyramid's vast frame. As night deepens outside, the village settles into a softer rhythm, the flicker of fires casting warm light over tired faces. You leave Nefret's hut with your wounds soothed, your spirit lifted just enough to face another day. The pyramid looms, silent and eternal, but here in the village's heart, the healing hands of your people hold you steady, a fragile refuge beneath the endless sky. The pyramid rises before you like a mountain carved from light and shadow, its immense silhouette cutting across the sky with a quiet, unyielding authority. Each block laid is a testament not only to the pharaoh's power, but to the countless hands, like yours, that have shaped it through endless days of labour and sacrifice. The dream of eternity weighs heavily on every man who pulls ropes, hauls stone, or smooths the vast surfaces, and you feel that weight settle deep in your bones with every step up the ramp. You often wonder what it means to be part of something so immense, a monument to a ruler whose face is carved into history, whose name will echo through time long after the labourers' own voices have faded into silence. This pyramid is more than stone. It is a symbol of order and divine authority, a bridge between mortal life and the eternal afterlife promised by the gods. Yet beneath the grandeur lies the harsh reality. The pyramid is built on the backs of men who know little of immortality beyond the daily struggle to survive. The pharaoh's dream is carved in limestone, but it is also etched in the calloused hands and weary shoulders of those who build it. You feel the paradox keenly, the beauty of the vision shadowed by the cost it demands. As you stand at the base of the great structure, the sun warming your skin, you think of the pharaoh's court far away, men draped in fine linens, surrounded by luxuries you cannot imagine, their lives untouched by the dust and sweat that define yours. The contrast is stark, but the pyramid links you to them, a silent connection through shared purpose, even if the rewards are not equal. The day's work begins again with the rising sun, the rhythm of labour and brotherhood pulling you into its relentless flow. You haul the ropes, feel the strain of the sled beneath your feet, and listen to the steady chant that binds the crew as one. Each stone moved is a step toward eternity, a fragment of the pharaoh's dream made real by your hands. In these moments, you understand that though your name may never be carved in hieroglyphs or sung in song, your labour is part of a story that stretches beyond time, a story of resilience, sacrifice, and the quiet strength of those who build the foundations of history itself. Before the first pale fingers of dawn brush the eastern horizon, the village lies wrapped in a hush, deeper than sleep itself. You find yourself awake in this quiet hour, lying beneath the rough woven reed mat that serves as your bed, the cool night air seeping through cracks in the mud brick walls. Outside, the desert holds its breath, the stars flickering faint and distant like ancient fires burning in the void above. The world is still, save for the soft rustle of palm fronds stirred by a gentle breeze and the occasional low call of a desert owl. In these moments, the weight of the pyramid feels far away, distant from the creak of sled runners and the rasping breath of exertion. The night is a fragile space where pain softens, and memories drift freely like the shifting sands beyond the village's edge. You think of the men who have pulled the heavy stones alongside you, their faces, etched with exhaustion and determination, flash through your mind like shadows in firelight. Each of them carries stories unwritten, moments of joy and sorrow hidden beneath layers of grit and sweat. Some will rise with the sun to haul another block, others will awaken to the cruel silence of absence, their places left empty by injury, illness, or worse. In this stillness, your thoughts travel back to the beginning of your journey, the dusty roads you walked, the nervous hope in your heart when first called to the Pharaoh's great work, the smell of baked earth, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the steady murmur of voices blending with the distant rush of the Nile. All have become part of the rhythm that shapes your days. You remember the village at nightfall, when fires crackle low, and the air fills with the scent of cooking barley and smoked fish. The laughter of children echoes softly between mud brick walls, their innocence untouched by the hardships etched into adult lives. Women hum quietly as they mend clothes or prepare the next day's bread, their hands steady and sure despite the exhaustion that settles deep within their bones. In these quiet hours, you feel a deep connection to the land and the people who inhabit it, a fragile thread woven between past and present, strength and vulnerability. The pyramid, colossal and eternal, seems less a monument of stone and more a silent witness to the lives unfolding beneath its shadow. Soon, the horizon will glow faintly with the first light of dawn, stirring the village from its slumber and calling you once again to the ropes and stone. But for now, in the soft, lingering moments before daybreak, the world holds a breathless peace, a reminder that even amidst great toil and sacrifice, there are pockets of stillness where the soul can rest, gather strength, and prepare to face another day beneath the unyielding sky. As the last embers of fire in the village gutter to ash, and the world seems to sink deeper into the velvet black of night, a small group of men begin their quiet vigil. Those who serve as the night watchers, guardians against threats both real and imagined that might disturb the fragile rest of the village. You find yourself among them, standing under a sky thick with stars, your eyes adjusting to the darkness as the cool desert air settles around your skin like a whisper. The watch is a solemn duty, one that carries its own weight. While others sleep, recovering from the brutal labour of the day, you walk the narrow paths between huts, the soft crunch of sand beneath your sandals the only sound accompanying your steady breaths. The silence is profound, filled with the faint crackle of dried palm fronds and the distant hoot of owls patrolling the night skies. Your mind wanders as your feet carry you slowly past the sleeping forms of your fellow labourers, their faces relaxed for once, free from the strain of hauling immense stones or the sting of sand and sun. The village looks fragile in the dark, a cluster of simple homes held together by shared sweat and hope, fragile as the delicate stars scattered overhead. Sometimes you catch the faintest hint of a breeze carrying the scent of the Nile, fresh and clean amidst the arid desert air, and you think of the river's endless journey, winding through the land as it has for countless generations. It is a silent reminder that life flows onward, persistent and patient, even as the pyramid rises stone by stone. Your thoughts turn to the dangers that shadow the pyramid's construction. Not only the physical perils of collapsing stones or fractured ropes, but the unseen threats lurking beyond the village's edge. Wild animals prowling under the cover of night, the creeping sicknesses that spread silently in cramped quarters, and the ever-present fear of exhaustion stealing a man's strength when he most needs it. Yet, despite these fears, there is a strange peace in this darkness. The night watchers share a quiet camaraderie, a bond woven through shared responsibility and the knowledge that their vigilance holds the village safe for just a few more hours. The world around you breathes softly in the hush, a living thing in perfect stillness. As you finish your patrol and return to your hut, the first pale blush of dawn begins to creep along the horizon. The village stirs once more, the cycle of labour and rest turning steadily onward, beneath the ever-watchful gaze of the Great Pyramid, silent and eternal. Morning light filters softly through the narrow cracks of your mud brick home, gently waking the village from its brief respite. Outside, the calls of birds and the distant murmur of the Nile mingle with the low sounds of daily life stirring once again. Among the men and women who bear the weight of the pyramid's rise, there are also children, small faces full of curiosity and innocence, weaving through the alleys and dusty paths with energy untouched by toil. You watch them from the doorway, their laughter light against the heavy backdrop of labour and stone. These children, sons and daughters of labourers like yourself, have lives that exist in fragile contrast to the relentless demands of the pyramid's construction. Their days are measured not by the rhythm of ropes and sleds, but by simpler, quieter moments. The chase of a stray goat, the touch of cool water from a shallow well, the soft storytelling of their mothers under the shade of date palms. In the village, the children learn early the skills they will need to survive in this harsh land. They watch their parents haul stones and fashion tools, absorb the rituals of worship and respect for the gods, and listen to whispered tales of the pharaoh's power and the eternal nature of the pyramids. Yet their eyes hold a spark of possibility, a silent promise that life will continue beyond the shadows of these monumental stones. Sometimes you join them, your own fatigue softened by their boundless energy. You show them how to fashion simple toys from scraps, or you trace shapes in the sand, telling stories of mighty kings and gods who walked the earth long ago. Their smiles offer a brief sanctuary from the weariness in your bones, a reminder that despite the weight of your labour, life pulses stubbornly onward. Still, beneath the joy lies the ever-present uncertainty. You know some children will grow to bear the same burdens as their fathers, caught in the endless cycle of survival beneath the desert sun. Others may fall ill, or face dangers that no game or laughter can erase. Yet, in these early years, the village breathes softly with the hope of new beginnings, the quiet promise that even in the shadow of stone and sweat, life will find a way to flourish. As the first rays of sunlight spill over the horizon, the village awakens to the familiar cadence of preparation and anticipation. You rise with the others, muscles stiff yet conditioned to the demands of the day ahead, the cool morning air offering a brief reprieve before the desert sun grows fierce. The scent of baked bread and brewing sour beer drifts through the narrow streets, mingling with the earth's dry warmth and the faint saltiness carried on the breeze from the nearby Nile. Your day begins with the ritual of gathering, men assembling near the pyramid's base, their bodies marked by calluses and dust, their faces lined with both exhaustion and resolve. There is no need for many words. The work itself speaks, a language understood in the tightening of grips on ropes, the careful placement of sleds, and the measured breaths drawn deep in preparation. The overseers arrive, tall and stern, their presence a reminder of the pharaoh's unyielding vision. They move among the crews with sharp eyes, directing and commanding, their voices cutting through the heavy air like the crack of a whip. Yet beneath their strictness lies a grudging respect for the men who bear the impossible weight, an understanding that without your strength and endurance, the pyramid would remain but a dream. The task at hand is daunting. Enormous limestone blocks must be moved up the steep, shifting ramps, their surfaces slick with sand and sweat. Each man finds his place in the intricate dance of effort. Some haul with powerful heaves, others steady the sleds or guide the ropes, while skilled masons wait to position each stone with precision once it reaches its designated place. The rhythm is exhausting but precise, a steady flow that moves the pyramid inch by inch toward the sky. The sun climbs higher, its heat turning the air thick and shimmering. Sweat pours freely, mingling with dust and grime, and muscles ache with the relentless strain. Yet, even in this brutal toil, there is a strange beauty, a testament to human will and cooperation, the shared burden of countless hands working as one. When the midday sun is at its fiercest, work slows, and the men seek shade wherever they can, beneath makeshift shelters, the scant trees that border the village, or the cooler shadows cast by the rising stone. Water and sour beer are passed around, the taste a bitter relief that restores something of the strength sapped by relentless labour. Throughout the day, your body moves in time with the work's demanding pulse. Heavy breaths, the scrape of sleds, the low murmur of chants and commands blending into a singular, ceaseless soundscape. You carry the memory of each stone placed, each mile climbed, each moment of shared struggle with the men who build not just a pyramid, but a legacy carved into the fabric of time itself. Amidst the grueling labour and relentless sun, nourishment becomes a small sanctuary, a momentary reprieve where the body and spirit find brief restoration. You have learned to cherish these pauses, knowing that the simple meals you share with your fellow workers carry far more than mere sustenance. They carry the quiet hope of survival, the strength to face another day beneath the pyramid's growing shadow. The diet here is humble but purposeful, shaped by the land's gifts and the hard realities of the work. Early morning bread, dense and coarse from barley or emmer wheat, is often your first taste of the day, its rough texture grounding you before the long hours ahead. Paired with a small piece of dried fish or a few olives, it offers a modest energy boost, enough to fuel the strenuous hauling, pulling and carving that lie ahead. When midday arrives, the village gathers to share whatever simple fare is available. A stew made from lentils, onions and leeks, simmered slowly over small fires, provides warmth and sustenance, the flavours mingling with the earthy scents of cumin and coriander. Occasionally, a handful of dates or figs offers a touch of sweetness, a rare comfort against the monotony of daily toil. Water is precious, drawn carefully from the nearby wells and the great Nile itself. It is often consumed in large gulps, cooling the parched throat and washing away the grit and dust clinging to skin and lungs. Sour beer, fermented from barley, is a staple during these breaks, a slightly tangy, nourishing drink that refreshes weary muscles and dulls the sharp edge of fatigue. You observe how food does more than fill the belly. It weaves the fabric of community. Around flickering fires or shaded courtyards, men exchange stories and laughter between bites, their faces softening in moments of shared humanity. Women prepare these meals with skill and care, their hands steady despite the exhaustion of their own days, and their presence a constant thread of life in the village's harsh tapestry. Even as you eat, you feel the fragility of this sustenance, the knowledge that a bad harvest, a failed shipment of grain, or an outbreak of illness could tip the delicate balance, turning survival into struggle. But for now, the meals sustain you, steadying your body and spirit to endure the monumental task of building the pharaoh's eternal house. In these simple offerings, the bread, the stew, the water and the beer, you find a quiet resilience, the nourishment that binds the living to the land and to each other, fueling the slow, unyielding rise of the pyramid from the desert floor. The desert surrounding the village and the pyramid is both a constant companion and a silent threat. While the blazing sun dominates the day, the night brings a chill that seeps through even the thickest of linen tunics, a stark reminder of the harshness and unpredictability of this ancient land. You've come to know that the desert is no mere backdrop to your work. It is a living force, its dangers woven into every grain of sand and every shifting dune. During the day, the glaring light makes every movement deliberate. The sand beneath your sandals burns fiercely, the wind carries grains that sting eyes and skin, leaving a fine, gritty layer that never quite washes away. The sun's glare creates mirages on the horizon, illusions that trick the mind and remind you of the limits imposed by nature. It is not only the sun's heat that threatens you, but also its power to sap strength slowly, invisibly, in the form of exhaustion and dehydration. But it is not just the weather that you must guard against. The desert teems with creatures both small and large, some hidden beneath the sand, others lurking in shadows. Scorpions with their venomous stings pose a deadly risk, often unseen in the village's narrow alleys or in the crevices of the pyramid itself. Snakes, quick and silent, sometimes surprise even the most watchful, their presence a reminder of the thin line between life and death here. You recall how a fellow labourer, a young man named Senu, was bitten while gathering stones near the outer ramp. Despite the healer's swift treatment, his strength waned over days, and you saw in the faces of your comrades the quiet dread that such unseen dangers inspire. It was a stark lesson in the fragility of life when confronted by forces beyond human control. The desert's silence at night carries its own warnings. The howl of distant jackals and the rustle of unseen creatures remind you that the land is never truly still. In the past, travellers and villagers have disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the endless sands or fallen prey to predators that prowl beyond the village's fragile safety. This knowledge shapes how you live each day, how carefully you watch your steps, how you protect your skin and eyes from the relentless sun and swirling dust, and how you respect the power of the land that sustains you, even as it threatens you. The desert is both giver and taker, its beauty inseparable from its danger. And so, beneath the immense stone blocks and the pharaoh's eternal vision, you carry with you the awareness of the desert's hidden dangers, a constant, quiet force shaping the rhythm of your life and reminding you of the fragile thread upon which your survival hangs. The labourers' lives, though marked by hardship and relentless toil, are not defined solely by the work itself. In the spaces between hauling stones and smoothing surfaces, a deep camaraderie grows, bonds forged in dust, sweat, and shared struggle. You have come to know these men not just as co-workers, but as brothers, companions whose presence steadies your resolve when your body threatens to give way. During breaks beneath the scant shade of date palms or makeshift shelters, conversations drift from the practical to the personal. Stories are shared, tales of distant villages, of wives and children waiting patiently, of dreams and memories that linger beyond the pyramid's shadow. Laughter rises softly, a fragile lightness amid the heavy weight of the day. You remember how Ibrahim, the eldest among you, once spoke quietly of his youth near the Nile, the slow currents of the river carrying hopes and worries alike. His voice, gravelly with years of work, held a gentle warmth that made the dry dust around you feel less suffocating. Beside him, young men like Senu listen intently, drawing strength from those who have endured before them. The work itself demands unity. The enormous stones cannot be moved by one man alone. They require coordinated effort, trust in each other's strength and timing. The chorus of voices, chants, commands, encouragement creates a rhythm that synchronizes your bodies, transforming individual labor into a collective force. It is in these moments that the pyramid feels less like a monolithic challenge and more like a shared mission, a testament to human endurance and cooperation. At night, when the village settles into quiet, these bonds extend beyond the work. Men gather around fires, sharing sparse meals and stories beneath the endless sky. The flickering flames illuminate faces lined with exhaustion, but softened by companionship. Here, amid whispered confidences and the steady crackle of firewood, you find moments of solace, a reminder that you're not alone in this vast, demanding endeavour. Though the pyramid will outlast generations, it is the lives and relationships of those who build it that give it breath and meaning. In the shared struggles and quiet moments between tasks, you discover a fragile strength that carries you forward, day after day, stone after stone. In the relentless cycle of days marked by the pounding sun and the unyielding weight of stone, injuries are an ever-present shadow among the labourers. You have witnessed firsthand the subtle shifts of muscle strain turning into deep, gnawing pain, and the sudden accidents where a misstep or a slipping rope sends a block tumbling with devastating force. The pyramid's rise is a testament not only to human endurance, but to the countless scars etched into the bodies of those who build it. Some wounds are minor, a scraped knee, a bruised shoulder, but even these bear their own burden in a place where every movement demands strength. More severe injuries, however, carry a heavier cost. A twisted ankle or a fractured bone threatens not just a day's work, but the fragile livelihood of a man and his family. You remember the grim day when one of the rope pullers, a man named Kima, fell from the ramp after losing his footing. The sickening thud echoed through the worksite, silencing even the relentless chants for a moment. He lay still, pain flickering across his face like a dying flame, and the fear that rippled through the men was raw and palpable. The village's healers, skilled with herbs and ancient remedies, move swiftly to tend these injuries. They work with quiet determination, their hands steady despite the scarcity of tools and the crude conditions. You have watched as poultices made from crushed leaves, honey and resin are carefully applied to wounds, bandages wrapped tight to hold bones in place and stave off infection. The process is slow, painstaking, and not always successful. Some men heal quickly, returning to the work with renewed resolve, while others remain bedridden, their fates uncertain. The harshness of the environment means illness often follows injury, weakening bodies already stretched thin by fatigue. Fevers creep in, lingering coughs worsen, and wounds sometimes fester despite the healer's best efforts. There is a quiet dread that hangs over the village whenever sickness strikes, a reminder of the fragility beneath the stoic faces of the labourers. You have come to understand that healing here is as much about hope as it is about medicine. The healers offer prayers alongside their treatments, invoking the protection of gods like Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of healing and war. Their chants blend with the rustling palms and the distant call of the Nile, creating a rhythm of faith that carries through the night. Injuries shape the rhythms of life. They slow the hands that pull the ropes and steady the sleds. They carve gaps in the crews, moments where the pyramid's growth pauses in quiet respect for the men who gave their strength. And yet, amidst the suffering, there is resilience. The men support each other, sharing workloads when a brother cannot stand, their shared burdens softened by the threads of compassion and duty. As you lie awake some nights, muscles aching and skin scarred, you realise that the pyramid is not only built from stone but from the flesh and spirit of those who labour tirelessly. Each wound tells a story, each healing a fragile victory in the endless march toward the pharaoh's eternal dream. And though the path is fraught with pain, it is walked together, step by painful step, beneath the vast unchanging sky. Despite the strength and resilience woven through the daily lives of the pyramid builders, the shadow of death lingers close, casting a quiet but persistent gloom over the village. You have seen the subtle signs, empty spaces where a man once stood, the sudden hush that falls during a meal when news arrives, the lowered eyes and whispered prayers that follow a loss. In a place where every day demands the utmost from the body, death is never far, and its causes are often shrouded in mystery or left unspoken. Some deaths come from accidents, stones slipping, ropes snapping, or a fall from the steep ramps that lead ever upward toward the sky. You remember how one day the air was pierced by a sharp cry as a man lost his grip while hauling a heavy block. The panic was brief but profound, the silence afterward heavier than the stones themselves. When the body was carried away, a collective weight pressed down on the crew, the loss felt as keenly as any physical burden. Others succumbed to sickness, the invisible enemy that creeps through cramped quarters and dusty pathways. Fevers, respiratory ailments, and infections claim lives quietly but relentlessly. The healers do all they can, but with limited knowledge and resources, some men fade despite their care. You recall the slow decline of a fellow named Amenemhat, whose coughing grew worse by the day, until finally he slipped away in the dark hours before dawn, leaving a void that no words could fill. There is also talk among some of you about mysterious deaths, those sudden, unexplained losses that leave questions lingering in the air like the desert dust. Stories circulate quietly of men found lifeless near the pyramid's base, their faces pale and bodies strangely still, with no clear cause. Some whisper of curses or divine displeasure, fearful that the gods might be watching and punishing those who dare build too close to eternity. Grief in the village is a private thing, expressed not in loud wails but in soft gestures, the touch of a hand on a shoulder, the careful wrapping of a body in linen, the laying of stones in simple graves just beyond the settlement's edge. The dead are honoured quietly, their names spoken softly and their memories carried forward by those who remain. Funerary rituals blend ancient tradition with the personal sorrow of loss, offering a fragile hope that the departed may find peace beyond this world. You feel this grief deeply, a heavy undercurrent beneath the daily toil. It is a reminder of life's preciousness amid the relentless demands of building something eternal. Each man lost is a story ended too soon, a thread broken in the vast tapestry of the pyramid's creation. And yet, the work continues, slow, steady, unyielding, as if the stones themselves bear witness to both the fragility and the strength of those who shape them. The rhythm of life in the village is not solely dictated by labour and survival. It is also marked by the quiet, sacred moments when the world seems to pause and the men turn their thoughts to the unseen forces that govern their fate. Between the brutal days of hauling and carving, ritual offers a fragile thread of connection, binding the living to the gods, the earth to the heavens, and the present to eternity. You recall how each morning begins not only with the rising sun, but with whispered prayers offered to the gods of the Nile and the desert. Hapi, who brings the life-giving floods, Ta, the master craftsman who guides your hands, and Khnum, the divine potter believed to shape each person on his wheel. The air hums softly with the sound of these invocations. The words are balm against uncertainty, a plea for strength and protection. Before setting out to the worksite, you and your comrades gather near small altars, simple arrangements of stones and offerings, bread, beer, and sometimes fragrant herbs. The elders, their faces etched with years of devotion, lead the ceremonies, their voices low and steady. The rituals are a solemn reminder that the pyramid is not merely stone and sweat, but a sacred monument, a bridge between mortals and the divine. At the end of the day, as shadows lengthen and the sun dips low behind the dunes, another ritual unfolds. Men wash away the dust and sweat in the cool waters of the Nile or in shallow pools near the village. The cleansing feels like more than physical renewal. It is a quiet baptism, washing away the trials of the day and preparing the body and spirit for rest. Sometimes you witness small gatherings around firelight where incense smoulders softly, and offerings are made to the spirits of the dead. These moments carry a bittersweet weight, the memory of those who have fallen, the hope for their safe passage into the afterlife, and the comforting presence of the divine watching over the living. The rituals offer more than faith. They create a rhythm to your days, a structure that holds the chaos of labour and loss in delicate balance. They remind you that despite the hardships, despite the dangers and the mysterious deaths, you are part of something greater. A long line of builders, dreamers, and believers whose lives are etched into the very stones of the pyramid. In these quiet ceremonies beneath the vast desert sky, you find a fragile peace. The gods may be distant and unknowable, but their presence is felt in the whispered prayers, the gentle offerings, and the steady beat of your own heart, steadfast against the passing of time. While the men you work alongside bear the bulk of physical labour, the construction of the pyramid is guided by a careful hierarchy of skilled overseers and architects whose presence shapes the entire project. These figures, both revered and feared, wield authority that extends beyond commands and into the lives of every labourer, their decisions influencing the daily rhythm of work and rest, success and failure. You often see them from a distance, men dressed in finer linen, their hands holding scrolls or wooden staffs, their eyes scanning the site with a practiced intensity. They are the ones who calculate the angles, who plan the placement of each massive stone, ensuring that the pyramid rises not only in size but in precision and grandeur. The pharaoh himself has entrusted them with a sacred mission, and their dedication borders on obsession. Their role is complex. They balance the immense pressure of meeting the pharaoh's expectations with the practical challenges of managing thousands of workers. They set quotas, arrange shifts, and allocate resources, always pushing the limits of human endurance in pursuit of an ideal vision. Sometimes their commands come harshly, demanding more effort and punishing mistakes swiftly. Yet, behind the stern exterior, some show signs of empathy and respect for the men they oversee. You have glimpsed moments when an architect pauses to inspect a freshly placed block, nodding approvingly at the work of a skilled mason, or when an overseer offers a word of encouragement during a particularly grueling day. These fleeting gestures remind you that the pyramid's construction is a shared endeavour, one dependent on cooperation as much as command. The relationship between labourer and overseer is delicate, a balance of power and dependence. Without your strength, the vision cannot be realised. Without their guidance, the effort risks chaos and ruin. This dynamic shapes the village's daily life, where discipline and camaraderie intertwine, and where each man, regardless of rank, contributes a vital piece to the eternal puzzle. In the quiet moments, as you rest beneath the open sky, you reflect on this balance. The pyramid is more than stone and sweat. It is a testament to the complex human networks of authority, skill, and resilience that brought it into being. And in this network, every face, every hand, every voice matters, woven together into the vast story carved into the desert's heart. Though the pyramid rises steadily under the relentless hands of its builders, life in the village pulses quietly around it in softer rhythms, most notably through the presence of children. Their laughter and small footsteps echo faintly through dusty lanes, weaving a delicate thread of innocence and hope amid the harshness of labour and desert heat. You notice how the children are woven into the fabric of daily life, even as the monumental work claims much of the adults' time and strength. Some carry water jars, eager to help. Others run errands or watch their parents from shaded courtyards. Their eyes are bright, reflecting curiosity and a cautious understanding of the world unfolding around them, a world shaped by the shadow of the pyramid and the weight of its demands. The village elders often speak of these children as the future, a generation that will one day inherit the legacy of the pharaoh's great tomb and perhaps build even grander monuments. Yet for now, they remain tethered to simpler joys, chasing after small animals, playing games beneath the sparse palms, and listening wide-eyed to stories told at night about gods, kings and the mysteries beyond the Nile. Despite the demanding environment, the children are nurtured carefully. Mothers and older siblings watch over them with vigilant care, shielding them from the harshest elements and the dangers that lurk in the desert beyond. The elders also teach them early lessons, basic skills, respect for the gods, and the importance of community, preparing them slowly for the day they too will carry the heavy load of survival and work. At times, the sight of children resting or playing near the edges of the worksite brings a bittersweet ache to your chest. Their innocence stands in stark contrast to the grit and sacrifice that define your own days, yet it also offers a quiet reassurance that life continues, even here, amidst the monumental task of shaping eternity. These small lives, fragile and fleeting, are reminders of hope amid toil and loss. They are the living future that the pyramid's cold stone walls seem to promise, a future shaped by the strength, sacrifice, and stories of those who build beneath the endless desert sky. In the midst of the grueling months marked by toil and dust, the village comes alive with a rare, vibrant celebration, the Festival of Opet. This sacred occasion offers a brief but precious respite, a chance for the labourers and their families to step away from the weight of the pyramid and immerse themselves in music, ritual, and the collective joy of community. You have felt the shift in the air long before the festivities begin, the streets humming with anticipation, the scent of baked bread and sweet incense drifting through alleys, and the lively chatter of neighbours preparing their homes and hearts for the days to come. The festival honours the god Amun, whose presence is invoked to bless the pharaoh and, by extension, those who build his eternal resting place. As the procession unfolds, adorned priests carry statues of the gods in ornate boats along the Nile, their movements slow and deliberate beneath fluttering banners. The rhythmic beating of drums, the soft notes of flutes, and the rising chorus of voices fill the air, washing over the village like a gentle tide. You find yourself drawn into the current, your weariness softened by the music and the shared spirit of devotion. For a moment the heavy chains of labour seem to loosen. Men, women and children gather in open squares, dancing and feasting, their faces bright with laughter and music. The hardship of the desert and the demands of the pyramid fade into the background, replaced by a sense of unity and hope. Stories of gods and kings are retold with renewed passion, connecting past and present in a timeless flow. Though the festival lasts only days, its impact lingers. It rekindles the strength to endure, reminding everyone that they are part of a larger story, one that intertwines mortal effort with divine will. When the celebrations end and the dust of the festival settles, the men return to their posts with renewed resolve, carrying the echoes of song and prayer in their hearts. The Festival of Opet is more than a pause. It is a vital thread in the tapestry of life here, weaving joy and faith into the daily struggle. And as you stand once more beneath the endless desert sky, the memory of those radiant days offers a quiet light to guide you through the long nights and demanding days ahead. Though the labour of shaping the pyramid's colossal stones falls primarily to the men, women hold an essential, often unseen place within the village's life, anchoring the fragile balance between survival and endurance. Their presence weaves through daily routines, binding the threads of family, sustenance and care with quiet strength and resilience. You often observe the women rising early, long before the sun reaches its peak, their hands skilled in tasks as vital as any labourer's strength. They prepare meals, grinding grain into flour with steady rhythms, baking dense, flat loaves that will sustain the workers through hours of toil. Their knowledge of herbs and remedies extends beyond the healers. Within their simple homes, women tend to minor wounds, soothe fevers, and offer comfort with hands both gentle and sure. Beyond practical care, women nurture the emotional fabric of the community. They raise children in the shadow of the pyramid, teaching them the ancient stories of gods and kings, instilling values of honour, endurance, and faith. When grief strikes, as it often does, their presence offers a quiet solace, a soft anchor in the turbulent sea of loss and uncertainty. Their voices rise in song during evenings when labour ceases and the village gathers near flickering fires. These songs, laden with longing and hope, carry the weight of history and memory, weaving together the lives of those who build and those who wait. Through their eyes, you glimpse a perspective shaped by endurance not only of hardship, but of waiting. The waiting for the return of loved ones, the waiting for the pyramid's completion, and the waiting for a future that remains uncertain. Women also manage the complex exchanges that sustain the village economy, bartering goods, tending small gardens, and maintaining the fragile stores of grain and water. Their labour is less visible, yet indispensable, a silent backbone supporting the monumental task underway. In their quiet determination and nurturing care, the women of the village embody a different kind of strength, one that sustains life amid hardship and breathes humanity into the cold geometry of the pyramid stones. Their contributions are woven into every corner of this ancient world, vital threads in the tapestry of survival and hope that stretches across the sands. Living at the foot of the pyramid means existing in constant dialogue with the natural world, its rhythms shaping every breath, every movement. The desert sun hangs high and merciless, pouring an unrelenting heat that presses down on your shoulders like a heavy cloak. From early morning, the light spills across the sands, turning stones and skin alike into blazing mirrors. Sweat trickles steadily, soaking the rough linen wrapped around your body, stinging your eyes and coating your throat with dryness. The dust, ever present and fine as powdered sand, slips into every crevice, clinging to your skin and settling thickly on your clothes and tools. Breathing becomes a quiet struggle, each inhale tinged with grit and warmth. When midday arrives, the sun reaches its zenith, and work slows or ceases altogether as the desert's furnace becomes too fierce even for the strongest men. You find shelter beneath scant shade, palm fronds or the sparse awnings woven by the women, waiting for the sun to dip low enough to soften its blaze. Yet the desert nights bring a stark reversal. As the sun sets, a sharp coolness sweeps over the camp, biting at uncovered skin and coaxing shivers from even the hardened labourers. The warmth of the day dissipates rapidly, leaving behind a chill carried by restless winds that stir the palm leaves overhead. Beneath the vast dome of stars wrapped in thin linen, you feel the desert's vastness surround you, silent and infinite. The Nile courses nearby, a lifeline threading through the barren land. Its annual floodwaters are both blessing and threat. When the river swells gently, it deposits rich silt along the fields, promising bountiful harvests and enough food to sustain the village. But its temperament is unpredictable. A flood too weak brings drought and hunger, while an excessive rise can swallow homes and spoil precious stores. The villagers watch the river's pulse with anxious eyes, offering prayers and offerings to Hapi, the god who commands its waters, begging for balance and mercy. The Nile also carries the heavy stones, the timber and the grain that feed the pyramid's builders, moving them along its winding path to the construction site. Yet travelling the river is no simple matter. Sudden storms can toss boats violently, hidden currents lurk beneath the surface, and the shadow of drowning is ever present. Stories circulate quietly among the boatmen, tales of overturned vessels, narrow escapes, and men lost to the depths. Nature, with its burning sun, biting cold, and unpredictable river, shapes life here with an uncompromising hand. Every day is a negotiation, a delicate balance between human will and the forces that neither stone nor sweat can tame. It is this dance with the elements, as much as the toil of the labourers themselves, that forms the silent foundation beneath the towering pyramid, a monument not only to kings, but to the enduring spirit of those who lived and struggled beneath the endless desert sky. As the pyramid rises steadily toward the sky, you feel the weight not only of the stones, but of history itself pressing gently upon your shoulders. Each block laid is a silent testament, not just to the pharaoh's immortality, but to the countless hands, backs, and hearts that shaped this monumental dream. In the dust and sweat, the hopes and sorrows of thousands are etched as deeply as the hieroglyphs that will adorn these walls for eternity. You walk slowly along the pathways, tracing the faint impressions of footsteps left long ago, those of labourers who bore immense burdens, who faced dangers without complaint, and who built something far greater than themselves. Their daily lives, marked by hardship, ritual, community, and loss, ripple through time like echoes in a vast canyon, faint but enduring. Though their names are mostly lost to us, their legacy endures, in bones uncovered centuries later, in scars etched into skeletal remains, and in the very stones that continue to stand. The story of these builders whispers softly. It is a story of resilience in the face of unforgiving elements, of strength born from cooperation, and of human lives intertwined with divine purpose. You realise that the pyramid, this towering marvel, is not just a tomb for a pharaoh, but a monument to the people who made it possible. Their quiet sacrifices and daily struggles immortalised in stone. They are the true architects of eternity, their stories woven into the fabric of history. As the sun sets behind the distant dunes, casting long shadows across the pyramid's gleaming face, you sense a profound stillness. Here, beneath the vast desert sky, time folds gently over itself. The builder's toil and dreams linger in the warm evening air, a timeless connection between past and present, stone and soul. And in this stillness, you carry with you the memory of those who built the pyramids, their lives, their deaths, and their enduring spirit. A story carved not only in the earth, but in the quiet depths of your own heart. Thank you for staying with me through this journey deep into the lives of the people who built the pyramids, their struggles, their rituals, and their quiet strength. I hope this story helped you drift gently into a peaceful space tonight. Wherever you are and whatever time it is, may you find comfort and calm as you settle in. Now get cozy and let your body relax, your mind slow down, and allow the quiet weight of history to cradle you softly. Wishing you a restful, soothing sleep. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.